Shalom Israel, giving honor and praise to the Most High God for the reading and the understanding of His Word. And I just want to go ahead and say happy Sabbath out there to all of Israel. Now, today is very special to me because this is something that developed from the comment section. Now, I already told this brother that I would give him full credit for this entire lesson because this came from a conversation in the comment section between me and my brother. The brother's name is Kithiah Israel, and he calls himself an old lion, but I gotta tell you something, brother. We young lions look up to you, and this is just the type of love that I'm talking about that we need to have in Israel. And he wanted me to bring out certain passages in Exodus, and it's about the Sabbath. And as I was going through this, I said, you know what? This would be an absolutely great lesson, one that we have not had dedicated. Now, we've talked about the Sabbath in the past, but we have never had a lesson that was strictly dedicated to the Sabbath. So that's what we are going to do today. We are going to have this discussion about the Sabbath as far as what we can do and cannot do on the Sabbath, what the Sabbath is, and pretty much everything all about the Sabbath. All right. So that's what we're going to do today. So first, let's start off with this. Let's start off with the Sabbath. Now, the Sabbath is one of the 10 commandments. So as the 10 commandments say that we should remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, right? Now we know that. So a question for Israel. So seriously, have we been keeping the Sabbath holy? And of course, we know the answer. The answer is no, we haven't been. We have not been remembering it, and we for damn sure have not been keeping it holy. So that's what we're going to go over today, all right? So, of course, I want everyone to open your Bibles to, first of all, we're reading the 1611 King James Version Bible, okay? The King James Version Bible with the Apocrypha. So if you have not installed this on your phone already, I want you to go ahead and do that today, all right? By looking it up by KJVA. All right, so that's what I want you to do because that gives all the books of the Bible. So here we go. So the first one that we're going to open Genesis chapter 2, and we're going to read down from verse 1 through 3. Now we have to see what the Sabbath is all about. Let's get the origin of the Sabbath. All right, like I said, we are going to tackle a lot today concerning the Sabbath so that you know come next Sabbath the things that you can do, cannot do, and why the Sabbath is such an important day. All right, so here it is, Genesis chapter 2, and I'm going to start at verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. So now, sanctified, that's not an everyday term. So, of course, you already know, I always like to look up the definition of things, right? So just so that you know what sanctify means. And here's the definition. Sanctify, set apart as or declare holy, consecrate. All right, now, here's the next one. Make legitimate or binding by religious sanction. The very last one is the one I want to focus on. Free from sin, purify. Now that's the definition of sanctify there. So when we go back to Genesis and we read verse 3, here, I'm going to read it again. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. All right, so this Sabbath day, here's the origin of it. Genesis, remember, Genesis means the beginning, the creation, the origin. So this is where it comes from. So for those of you that are not picking up on this here, the Sabbath day is the very first holiday / holy day, whichever way you want to pronounce it, that God created for his Israelites. Because remember, we learned before that the Most High God made the world for Israel's sake, for our sakes, right? So this is the first day that he gave us. He said, I want y'all to be just like me. And on the seventh day, I want y'all to rest. Now, we're going to see exactly what this is, okay? It doesn't mean that you stay in bed all day with your head on the pillow. It doesn't mean that, all right? So now I want to go to Exodus, and we're going to go to chapter 31. All right, the book of Exodus, chapter 31. Now, remember, the book of Exodus with the history, this is the time that the Israelites came out of Egyptian captivity, and Moses is handing down all of the laws that the Most High wrote on the tablet, and all the laws that he gave us and told us that we have to keep. All right, so not only the laws that were on the tablet, but all of the statutes that came under it. All right, because remember, the 10 Commandments is nothing but the umbrella, and then everything else falls under there. All right, so now here we go. Exodus chapter 31, and we're going to start at verse 12. Now, this is where Brother Kithiah wanted me to read to the rest of us. All right, and it's so plain and simple, and it's so deep, and I'm so glad that this brother brought this out for us. All right, now here we go. Exodus chapter 31. And we're going to start at verse 12. And it reads, And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel. And as you already know, I always bring this up, and I always say, who's the audience? It's Israel, not the whole world. Saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you. So, as you can see here, the precept to this was Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. This is why I say you always have to know the precepts. Here's that word again, sanctify. So not only did the Most High sanctify the Sabbath day, but he also sanctified you, Israel, you, us. Let's continue. Ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. I'm going to stop there for a second. Do you see what that just said, Israel? Every person that defiles the Sabbath, that means break the Sabbath, do the things that you're not supposed to do on the Sabbath, you are worthy of death. Now, back then you were put to death back then. All right, the same verses here where, remember when we talked about this before, remember when the man went out, another Israelite man, and he was simply picking up sticks? Remember that? Where he was picking up sticks on the Sabbath day. And what did the Most High order to do? Put him to death. Remember that? All right, so let me go ahead and continue. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul, hear that soul shall be cut off from among his people. And I want to make sure that I establish this here. Do you see how serious the Most High is about not doing anything on his Sabbath day and us keeping it holy? You see that? He said, not only am I going to kill you, but I'm going to cut your soul off. Whoo, come on now. How plain is that? We can stop right there, but of course we're not going to. We have so much more to do. All right, so verse 15. 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. He said it again. Do you see that? He said it twice. You cannot work on this day. Now, this is the part where we're talking about work. You cannot work on the Sabbath day. It doesn't matter what you say, you cannot work on the Sabbath. The Sabbath is a day of rest. You cannot work from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. All right? And there it is. So let me go ahead and continue. Verse 16. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations. So let me stop. Throughout their generations, meaning all the way back then to this very Sabbath day right now, throughout your generations. For a perpetual, which means continuing, covenant. Now, what's the covenant? The covenant is what the Most High God made between us and him. A promise between us and God. This is the importance of the Sabbath. This is the day that the Most High recognizes his Israelites and like, yo, it's all about us today. It's all about us. It's about me and you. That's it. That love letter. Right here. That, remember, we talked about the love letter to Israel. Remember that? And this is the day that the Most High wants to express it. This day is ours. That bride and groom, the most special day ever made. And you'll see, well, we're not done. We're just getting into stuff. We're not done. Verse 17, and he goes on to explain it. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel. The children of Israel. The children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone written with the finger of God. So the finger of God actually wrote down these commandments, and remembering the Sabbath day to keep it holy is one of them. This is one of the big dogs. This is one of the 10. So for any person out there that's saying, oh, the only thing we got to do is keep the 10 commandments, which we know is wrong. But for those of you that want to argue that, and guess what? And if you are defiling the Sabbath, then what's your excuse now? Okay, so that was that. Now, I want to go to Exodus 20. We're going to back up. Same book, but we're going to go back up to Exodus 20, and I want to start at verse 8. All right? Exodus 20 and verse 8. Now, remember, this is still Moses talking, still the book of Moses, okay? Now, and before we read this here, so do you realize how in the commandments where we read a lot that we are supposed to do this throughout our generations? Generations means continuing, and it just continues to say that, does it not? So that means that all of these commandments we are supposed to be following today. All right, Exodus 20, verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. So it's telling you again right here, all your work from Saturday sundown unto Friday sundown. That's all the time of the work that you get to do. All that up until then. Anything afterwards, going into that Sabbath, you cannot do. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Very simple, right? So it goes on to tell you who cannot do any work. And it's basically everybody, everyone within your dwellings. And also, I want to go ahead and read this one here. Nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. Now back then, now remember, the children of Israel just came out of captivity and they're back in power. So what's happening now? They have slaves. Who's the slaves? The other nations. Even our slaves are not to work on the Sabbath day. They are to observe it. Now that's going to be the same way in the kingdom as well. But they won't be in the kingdom. They'll be outside. And in their quarters, they will not be able to do any work because they have to obey the law as well. All right. So now I want to go to New Testament. I'm going to go to Mark chapter 2 and let's go to verse 27. That's Mark chapter 2, and we're going to go down to verse 27. And remember, Old Testament, New Testament, all right? Here is coming out of the mouth of Christ himself. And he said unto them, the Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore, the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath. I want to make sure y'all understand that. Now, that's coming out of the mouth of Christ himself. Now, what is he saying here? That the Sabbath was made for us. That covenant again. So this is Christ here telling you about the Father, saying the Father made this day for you. Now, there's a precept involved in that. I want you to go to 2nd Esdras chapter 6, and we're going to read verse 59. 2nd Esdras chapter 6 and verse 59. Here is the precept to that. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? So as you can see here, even going all the way back to Esdras. Now, Esdras is in the book Ezra. Same person, different pronunciation and spelling, but the very same person, the same prophet. Now, as you can see right here, if the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? So in other words, as we were saying before, with the strangers, why are we not owning our slaves? Why? Because we broke the commandments by breaking the Sabbath. It all ties in. And you're going to, like I said, we're just at the beginning. You're going to see why all of this matters. Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. Okay? So now I want to go to Isaiah, back to the Old Testament, the book of Isaiah, and I want to read chapter 58. And we're going to read 1 through 2, and then we're going to jump down. Okay? Isaiah chapter 58. I'm going to read 1 through 2 first. You ready? Cry aloud, spare not. Lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and shew my people their transgressions, and the house of Jacob their sins. I want to stop. That's a lot right there. Right here in Isaiah is telling the children of Israel, the prophets, is telling the teachers, is telling all of Israel. Cry aloud, scream, raise your voice when you speak to the children of Israel. Now, a lot of y'all, when y'all see the brothers out there on the streets, all right, a lot of the camps, and they're yelling, and so many people say, why are they yelling so much? Well, right here. Because there's not necessarily that they're yelling at you, they're raising their voice so that all can hear. Y'all got to understand that. These brothers are not being rude. Now, some of them are very cutthroat, I do admit that. But a lot of them have a passion when it comes to this word, and they really do. All right, so like I said, I'm not taking anything away from them. All right, so now let's go down to, let me finish that. And it says, and shew my people their transgressions, and the house of Jacob, Israel, their sin. So it's saying, raise your voice and speak to them, and don't spare anybody's feelings. That's why I said spare not. Don't spare anyone's feelings. Let them know what their sins are. All right. So now down to verse 2. Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of their God. They ask me the ordinance of justice. They take delight in approaching to God. So do y'all get that? Do y'all really understand that? There was a time when we were completely obedient and we were diligently seeking out what the Most High wanted us to do, where we were craving to be completely obedient to everything that he was telling us to do. All right, so now let's go ahead and jump down to verse 13. Let's go down to verse 13. And again, it talks about the Sabbath. Watch this. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, call it a delight, the holy of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words. So let's break that down. So what this is saying here is for those people who actually look forward to the Sabbath, like I do every weekend to be with you guys, and look forward to make sure that I'm keeping his commandments. And y'all should be doing the same thing too, to make sure that when sundown comes, there's no cooking, no working, no cleaning, nothing at all. You want to make sure that you keep the Sabbath day and all the laws. There was a time when Israel did that, and when we did that, we were in power. So now the Most High is saying in this here, don't do the things that you want to do. Don't go to the clubs. Stay out the clubs, all right? Don't be going buying anything after I told you I don't buy. Don't do any of these things, but do what I tell you to do. Keep your feet planted to walk in the direction of the Most High and the prophets. That's what that's saying. So now go down to 14. Then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth. So just by keeping the Sabbath, the Most High said, I'm going to put y'all on high. I'm going to put y'all on high above everyone else on the earth, just like it says in Deuteronomy 7:6. Above all people, above all. And it says it here again in Isaiah. And feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. You understand what that means? God is saying, I said it, it will happen if y'all do this. If my children, if Israel keeps the commandment of worshiping the Sabbath day and keeping it holy, I will put y'all on top. But of course, we don't do that. That's another promise from the Most High that he told us, and we just like, I'm not dealing with that. I won't do it. I'm going to do what the other nations do. And like I said, we're going to get into that too. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Now, let's go back to the New Testament. I'm going to go to the book of Hebrews. Let's go to Hebrews. And remember, Hebrews was written by Paul. And we're going to start, I'll go to chapter 4. We're going to start at verse 1. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 1. All right, and it reads, let us therefore fear lest a promise being left us of entering into his rest. What's that rest? The Sabbath day. Any of you should seem to come short of it. For unto us was the gospel preached, as well as unto them. But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. For we which have believed do enter into rest, as he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. For he spake in a certain place of the seventh day on this wise, and God did rest the seventh day from all his works. And in this place again, if they shall enter into my rest. Seeing therefore it remaineth that some must enter therein, and they to whom it was first preached entered not in because of unbelief. So that's simple. So that's Paul right there saying God said he'll keep all of his promises if y'all do what I tell you to do. And for those that don't do it, there's no rest for you. There's none. What does that mean? That means death. Eternal hell fire that burns forever. There's no such thing as annihilation. You are going to burn forever. Point blank and simple. So now I want to go to Luke chapter 4 and verse 16. Luke chapter 4, and I want to go down to verse 16. Okay. And it reads, and he came to Nazareth. Who are they talking about? Talking about Christ. Where he had been brought up. As his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. Now, we're going to start breaking some things down. What does it say here? And he came to Nazareth, which is in Jerusalem, where he had been brought up, where Christ grew up, and as his custom, Christ is an Israelite, our custom that we're supposed to be following today. He went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. Now, we're going to get the definition of synagogue because I think y'all already know where I'm going with this. We're going to get it. Let's get the definition of synagogue. I'll tell you, like I said, we're not going to play no games today, as we never do. All right. Synagogue. The building where a Jewish assembly or congregation meets for religious worship and instruction. A Jewish assembly or congregation. So, it doesn't take a brainiac, it doesn't take a scientist to figure this one out. When are you supposed to go to church, Israel? On the Sabbath day. Who is the main example? Christ himself. He taught in a synagogue on the Sabbath day. Not Sunday, not the day that the Emperor Constantine put in place. On the Sabbath day, the day that the Most High put in place, and his son that came down to earth, and we have to follow his direction so that he could show us the right way. This is supposed to be on Saturday. For Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, whenever it is, in between that time, that is when we are supposed to have church, not on Sunday. All right, so now I want to go to Leviticus, and we're going to read chapter 23. And Leviticus is Old Testament. This is where the laws are starting to be really coming into effect now. Chapter 23, and we're going to read verse 1 through 3. And here it is. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, and again, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Now I'm going to stop. Now I know that we went over this before, some of you may remember, but there's a lot of people who are tuning in for the very first time today. So we're going to see what convocation means. Convocation definition. A large formal assembly of people. The action of calling people together for a large formal assembly. Now, we just read that where? One verse before. Did we or did we not? We read that there back in Luke. Did we not? A convocation. A large assembly. A gathering. Church. So there's the precept for that. There it is. Again, and I'm going to read this here again. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. There it is. It says it again. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. America, England, parts of Africa, parts of Jerusalem, Spain, Mexico, all the places where we're scattered, all over the earth, Israel. For those of us who know we're Israelites, we need to be teaching those who don't know, and we need to be giving them the laws. And one of the laws are the Sabbath. We have to keep it. I mean, this is very simple. This is very, very simple, Israel. Like I said, I could stop the lesson now, but of course we're not going to. But I think y'all get the point. Y'all get the idea. So now I want to go to my man, Nehemiah. I love Nehemiah. I really, really love Nehemiah. And you're about to find out one of the reasons why. We talked about this before, but you're about to find out now if you did not know. I want to go to Nehemiah chapter 13, and we're going to start at verse 15. Now, Nehemiah, of course, he's an Israelite, okay? And you're about to find out why Nehemiah is one of my favorites. Watch this. Now, just to give you a little history here. Now, this is during the time of Nehemiah, okay? And Nehemiah, just to let you know, first of all, he's from Judah. So today, if he was alive today, he would be an American black. So the history with this here is that Nehemiah is very, very strong about making sure that Israel keep these commandments. And he's a person that you call a no BSer. All right. So let's just get into it. Let me just read it. Watch this. All right. So we're going to start at verse 15. In those days saw I in Judah some treading wine presses on the Sabbath. So let me stop real quick. Now, is that supposed to be done on the Sabbath? Treading a wine press? No, that is considered work. So Nehemiah is saying, I saw in Judah. Now we have to understand this. Judah is the top tribe. Judah is God's first that he goes to. So we are supposed to be the examples and saying, hey, I'm seeing people in Judah doing work on the Sabbath day. This is an automatic no-no. All right, so let's continue. And bringing in sheaves and lading asses, as also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. I'm going to read that again, just in case you didn't get it. And all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals. So now, let me go ahead and stop here. This is what I want to break down. That's why I want to read it, and then I'll get into this. Now, so what would happen is that the other nations used to wait outside of the gates, because there were gates even in Jerusalem where the other nations cannot get into, because the Most High always had us separated. Just like we will be in the kingdom when New Jerusalem comes down. Same place. That's the old Jerusalem, and then the New Jerusalem is going to come down. But we were always separated from the other nations. So what's happening? They're working, and now they are about to buy and sell. And victuals are like items. Okay? So let's go ahead to 16. There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. So they're saying that there were men, the other nations were coming into the gates and selling in Jerusalem. And Judah was allowing this to happen. Now, the thing with this is that Judah was supposed to stop and put an end to all that nonsense. But no, what happened? We were allowing it to happen. All right, verse 17. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah. Let me stop. Now, this is a rewind to what we learned about last week. Now, we talked about the nobles. Remember, these were the kings and princes of Judah, and the women too. All right, the queens and the princesses. But then I contended with the nobles of Judah and said unto them, what evil thing is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath day? So now, contend means to fight. He's fighting with them like, yo, like, hold on, yo, what y'all niggas doing? Y'all know better than this? Yo, this is the Sabbath day, yo, we can't be doing that. What's wrong with y'all? All right, so Nehemiah is getting on them. All right, so verse 18. Did not your fathers thus, and did not our God bring all this evil upon us and upon this city? Yet ye bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath day? So do you see what Nehemiah do? He's like, wait a second now. Didn't our fathers sin? Don't y'all remember everything that we went through? Don't y'all remember the slavery out of Egypt? And now y'all gonna let this happen again? Like, yo, what's wrong with y'all niggas? Yo, y'all crazy. Nah, shut this down now. And as you see, he's saying all this evil is happening. And he said, didn't God bring all of this upon us already? So what's up with Nehemiah? Nehemiah knows the history. Nehemiah knows what's up when you break the commandments. And especially this Sabbath day. All right? So let's go ahead to verse 19. And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut, and charged that they should not be open till after the Sabbath, and some of my servants set I at the gates, that there should be no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day. So Nehemiah ordered for the gates to be closed. He said, yo, close the gates up. Nobody getting in here. Nobody is coming in here and will disrespect the Most High on the Sabbath day. So as you can see how straight up and how serious Nehemiah was making sure that this day was kept holy. All right. Now let's go to verse 20. So the merchants and sellers of all kind of ware lodged without Jerusalem once or twice. So what was happening here? The men were starting to line up outside the gates. This was a problem to Nehemiah. So before they could even get in, they was already setting up shop and everything like that. Let's find out what happens. Then I testified against them and said unto them, why lodge ye about the wall? So he went out there and he's saying, yo, why y'all line up against the wall for? What are y'all doing? The gates are closed. Y'all not supposed to be here right now. Because what's happening? It's enticing the Israelites. Because somebody could go right outside that gate and go buy or go sell or make a deal when none of this was supposed to be happening. So Nehemiah has a major, major issue with this. Watch this. Look at this here. If ye do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time came forth they no more on the Sabbath. Y'all see that? Do y'all see what Nehemiah was all about? Nehemiah said, I'm going to lay hands on you. I'm going to put the bricks to you. Nehemiah was not playing. Nehemiah like, yo, if y'all come to that gate, I'm going to bust y'all ass. Come to the gate again. Do it again. And what happened? As you see, it said they came no more. So y'all got to remember too now, Nehemiah, we can say he just wasn't by himself. Remember, as we read here just a little bit ago, that his servants were also out there with them. So yo, these were our brothers. Y'all understand? These were our brothers, the men that we need today. Like brother Keziah Israel. Men like that. To be like, yo, listen, let's go to the gates right now and we're going to catch wreck on anybody that try to break these commandments or try to entice our people to try to break these commandments. They wasn't having it back then. Y'all got to understand that attitude that our ancestors had. They were not playing when it came to keeping these commandments. Y'all got to understand that. Yo, Israel, our family was so serious about keeping these commandments. And that's why I'm trying to stress the importance to us that we have to keep these commandments all the time. There's no rest period. There's no break period when it comes to keeping these commandments. This is something that we have to do. Now, I want to go to Exodus 16. Let's go down to Exodus 16. Still in the Old Testament. And I want to read chapter 16, and we're going to start at verse 22. Okay, now, this is going to tell you now we're going to start to talk about what can and cannot be done on the Sabbath. All right, so we already know we can't work, we can't buy, we can't sell. We already covered that. So now we're going to go in. Now, let me just read it. Here we go. Exodus chapter 16, verse 22. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man, and all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. I'm going to stop here for a second. I'm going to read this again because I know a lot of that went over so many people's heads. And it came to pass that on the 6th day, right? They gathered twice as much bread. So they're starting to make an abundance of the food on the 6th day. All right, this is before Friday sundown. 2 omers for one man and all the rulers. And I want y'all to understand this. I want you to understand your history here. All the rulers of the congregation, kings, queens. Y'all got to get that. Israel, do you see who y'all are? Do you see who we are? Royalty. Came and told Moses, and he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath made. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today. Bake, meaning cook. Cook what you will cook today before the Sabbath comes. And seethe that ye will seethe, and that which remaineth overlay up for you to be kept until the morning. So it's telling you to bake, which means cook, bake anything that you need to cook, and boil anything. Seethe means to boil, and boil anything, whether that be corn, vegetables, whatever it is. Do all of this before the Sabbath. Why? Because it's telling you here, you cannot cook on the Sabbath. You can't cook, and we're going to get deeper into that too. All right, and that which remaineth overlay up for you to be kept unto the morning. So it say, cook enough now before the Sabbath get here so that you can eat this very same food tomorrow so that you don't have to cook. Make sure that you keep the rules of the Sabbath. Let's continue. And they laid it up till the morning as Moses bade, and it did not stink. So I want to make sure that y'all understand that there. It's saying it did not stink. It's saying that the food that they cooked and left overnight did not spoil. Now, that was all the way back then. We have things called refrigerators and containers now. So there's no excuse now. None whatsoever. This is why the Most High said that we are worse than our forefathers when it comes to keeping these commandments. He said we are so much worse than them because we have all of the technology, all the gadgets now to make sure that we don't break the Sabbath. But guess what? We go right ahead and do it anyway. All right, let me continue. I'm going to read 24 again. And they laid it up till the morning as Moses bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. So he's going and ruling out any sort of issues with that food spoiling. And he just laid it to rest, all right? So now, verse 25. And Moses said, eat to that day, for today is the Sabbath unto the Lord. Today ye shall not find it in the field. In other words, don't find nobody in that field. Nobody should be doing any work. 6 days ye shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none. And the Lord said unto Moses, how long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws? So now the Most High is stepping to Moses and saying, how long they're gonna keep doing this? How long? All right. So now, verse 29, see, for that the Lord hath given you the Sabbath, therefore he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Is telling you again, make sure you cook in abundance, prepare for it, make sandwiches, do whatever you need to do, but don't be cooking on a Sabbath day. Abide ye every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. That means male and female. Don't let anybody go outside of his place. Don't let anybody break the commandment of the Sabbath. So the people rested on the 7th day. Israel, this is simple. Very, very simple. All right. So now I want to go to Exodus 35. Exodus chapter 35. And we are going to read 1 through 3. All right? I want y'all to pay attention to this. And Moses gathered all the congregation of the children of Israel together. We learned about that congregation. We're a church. And said unto them, these are the words which the Lord hath commanded that ye should do them. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day there shall be to you an holy day, a Sabbath of rest to the Lord. Whosoever doeth work therein shall be put to death. Ye shall kindle no fire. throughout your habitations upon the Sabbath day. Now, we need to make sure that we get this straight here. This is referring back to cooking, all right? Not warming your home. That has nothing to do with it. Now, even today, we don't kindle fires when we warm our homes because we have heaters and things like that. But in the sake, now, even if you do, if it's a fireplace or whatever, this is not what it's talking about. It's talking about cooking. It's going right back to let you know, don't be kindling any fires in your home. None. All right. No, also, don't be burning any garbage if you guys do that live out in rural areas and things like that. You cannot do that. That is still considered work. The only time that you're able to kindle a fire is to warm your home. That's it. That is it. All right. So now let's go down. Let's go down to, as a matter of fact, I want to go to Mark. No, as a matter of fact, let's wrap this up. I want to go to 2 Maccabees. Go to 2 Maccabees and let's go to chapter 6 and I'm going to read verse 6. Because now I want to get into the history. I want to nail home why the Sabbath day is so important. Now, we read this last week, but I didn't give a precept last week. I want you to see something. Watch this. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient fasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. Now, for those of you who remember last week when we talked about this in the book of Maccabees, this is the history of when the Edomites began to take over. Israel was in power at this time, but we broke the commandments. And the Most High, as we already know, when we break the commandments, the Most High sends the other nations against us and puts us into captivity. And this is the history with this here. So what happened? We were in power. We stopped keeping the Sabbath. We were breaking the commandments. And then the Most High sent the Edomites after us. And now they ordered. Listen, they ordered. Neither was it lawful. They made it a law that the Israelites could not keep the Sabbath days. Why? Why could Israel not keep the Sabbath days? Because the Sabbath day is the most holy, important, and strongest day on the planet. Why? It is the day of the covenant, the day of the convocation, the day that all of the Israelites are to get together as one and become one collective unit. What does that do? And that sends praise to the Most High God. And when we do that, he's communicating us to him, back and forth. That praise, that worship. And anytime during that, guess what? When the Most High rises up, the other nations fear. 100% fear. That's why they made it a law that we could not keep the Sabbath day. Do you understand that? They made it a law. Make sure them niggas don't celebrate this day. Make it a law. If you see it, kill them. Wipe them out. Do y'all see the power behind this day? Let's talk about the Sabbath here for a second. Now, a lot of y'all may never have picked up on this, but we're going to talk about this here. Now, you know a lot of y'all celebrate Easter, right? Which you shouldn't. And if you're an Israelite, you're damn sure shouldn't be if you know that you are. But you celebrate Easter, right? So, let me jog your brain here for a second. The Sabbath day. Well, let me start back for a second. When does the world say Christ died? They say that he died on Easter Sunday, right? This is the day that they say Christ died and he went up. He died this day. He didn't go up yet. He died. He died this day. So, is that true, Israel? That Christ died on Sunday? So now we know that Christ actually, he died on a Wednesday, right? And then the third day, whatever the story is, he rose up, right? On that Sunday, right? I think I had it backwards. I think I said he died on Sunday. He didn't die on Sunday. He rose up on Easter Sunday, right? Okay, so now we're going to go back. We're going to go to Wednesday. We all know that Christ died on a Wednesday Ash Wednesday, right? That's what the Catholics or whatever, what they symbolize when they have the ash, the cross or whatever on their head, and they're sitting there and they're mocking the death of Christ. That's what that's all about if you didn't know. But Christ died on a Wednesday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Christ rose on the Sabbath day, not Sunday, the Sabbath day. And y'all gotta understand the power of this day. Whenever the Most High wants something to get done, it's usually done on the Sabbath, the day of his rest. There's something about this Sabbath day. And there's something so strong about it that the other nations make sure that we are breaking this commandment constantly. Why? Friday night is the Sabbath. What happens every Friday night? Come on now. It's party time within Israel, right? Everybody's going out, everybody's drinking, being merry. We all know what happened the first time that happened, right? The Most High destroyed the world. Did he not? Yes, he did. So everyone's out at the clubs, everybody's partying, everybody's at the movies, everybody's out doing something that they should not be doing, everybody's spending money, everyone's doing everything other than giving worship to the Most High God. Then what happens on Saturday? Saturday morning, what is it all about? It's all about the sales. Now that's male and female. King and queen, prince and princess. It's all about the sales. We're all at the malls. We're all over the place. We're everywhere where we're not supposed to be. All right? What else has happened on Saturdays? Barbecues, cooking, lighting up in your habitations, which we should not be doing, right? All these things, all the things that they get us to do on the Sabbath day. It's a damn shame. And we sit there, we do all this, and we disrespect the Most High to his face every Sabbath. Now, also for those of you who say that you have to work on the Sabbath, guess what? No, you don't. You need to know your laws because this is a religious observation. It is. And I'm going to leave the article that you can go where you can check out all the laws. And this is nationwide. Where you can go and you can tell your employer under religious observation, I have the right to not work on the Sabbath day. That is to you. You have it. And all like I said, and especially like for the hairdressers and the barbers and everything like that. And I know that's custom to y'all, but guess what? We can't do it. We cannot do it. There's no excuse. Well, that's the day I make my money. You have to make your money on another day, bro. You have to make your money on another day, sis. Sorry. The Most High said no, and that's what we need to abide by. Point blank and simple. All right? So now, I want to go to Judith. The book of Judith. And you're going to find out right now why they continue to do this. I told you I was going to make sure that y'all knew why this day was so important. So go to the book of Judith. And we're going to go to chapter 5. And I'm going to start at verse 17. All right, now again, this is the history. Watch this. And whilst they sinned not before their God. So now, this is the person of the other nations talking. This is not an Israelite talking right now. This is the person of the other nation. This is Judith telling this story. And whilst they sinned not before their God, talking about the Most High and the Israelites not sinning, they prospered. Did you hear what she said? They prospered when we did not sin, because the God that hateth iniquity was with them. Verse 18, but when they departed from the way which he appointed them, in other words, we departed away from keeping the commandments, we were sinning, they were destroyed in many battles, very sore, and were led captives into a land that was not theirs. What are they talking about, Israel? Judith is talking about slavery. And the temple of their God was cast to the ground. This is when the Edomites came in and they start breaking down the temple walls of Jerusalem and all over the places where we dwelled. They ruined our holy convocation temples. They broke the churches, smashed them. and their cities were taken by the enemies. It was a takeover, the beginning of the. But now are they returned to their God and are come up from the places where they were scattered and have possessed Jerusalem. So now we're coming back into power, where their sanctuary is, and are seated in the hill country, for it was desolate. So now the Israelites are getting back into power. Now I want you to listen and listen good. Now, therefore, my Lord and Governor, we're not talking about the Most High. This is, like I said, Judith is telling a story from a different perspective, talking to another Edomite, a Lord and Governor. If there be any error against this people, talking about Israelites, if there's any error with these Israelites, and they sin against their God, let us consider that this shall be their ruin. I'm going to read this again. Now, therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error, if we're sinning against this people, and they sin against their God, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up and we shall overcome them. Do you see what they knew in our history? These other nations know when we sin, they have us beaten, and they will lord and rule over us. There it is, Israel. They know this. The other nations know this. This is why they continue to do this over and over and over and make us sin on the Sabbath day. Here it is. Now we're going to read this. Verse 21. But if there be no iniquity in their nation. Now, even you see, they see the separation. They know the separation. They know that we are not all together. They know we are not all equal, Israel. They know this. They know it. We don't know this, but they do. But you're learning now. But if there be no iniquity in their nation, if they are not sinning, let my Lord now pass by. Let my Lord now pass by. They're not talking about the Most High Lord. They're saying this Lord, the one he's talking to. He said, if they're not sinning, go past them. Leave them alone. Lest their Lord defend them. Lest their Lord defend them, and their God be for them, and we become a reproach before all the world. Let's get the definition of reproach. Remember, these are not everyday terms. The definition of reproach: address someone in such a way as to express disapproval or disappointment. The next one down, the noun. The expression of disapproval or disappointment. Let's go back. Let's read that again, verse 21. But if there be no iniquity, if there be no sin in their nation, let my Lord now pass by, and say, Lord, go past these people. Don't bother them if they're not sinning. Leave them alone, lest their Lord defend them. If we are not sinning, the Most High will defend us. Lest their Lord defend them, and their God be for them, and we become a reproach. We become the expression of disappointment. We become the disappointment before all the world. Now, do you see how these other nations know that formula and we don't? Do y'all see this? This is insanity. Straight up freaking insanity. They know all of this, and it's right here in the book. But we don't know it. And we continue to break his commandments over and over and over and over again. Israel, straight up. This should be the biggest eye-opener. And again, brother, thank you for bringing this to our attention. What a wonderful lesson. Wonderful lesson. And like I said, I will never take credit for this one, brother. This is all you. Man, Israel, like I said, we have work to do. And once we start keeping these commandments, you see what it says. The Most High will defend us. As we already know, we know this. Well, some of us know. But now for those of you who are just coming into this, now you know. We have to keep the commandments. And we for damn sure have to get serious about the Sabbath. We must. And the holy convocation right now, this is, remember, they destroyed our temples. This is a holy convocation. We're gathered. We are giving praise to the Most High. We are learning the word. And now that you learn it, now you got to get out there and you have to express it. What do I mean by expressing? Show it. Keep the commandments. Because remember, other people are watching you. When people see that you're keeping these commandments, I'm telling you, it raises their antennas. Even though they may be like, all right, well, man, that nigga crazy. I ain't doing all that or whatever. Guess what? They're watching you. They're seeing what you're doing, and you have no idea the influence that you have on other people in Israel. You have no idea the influence that you have on your brothers and sisters. None. For the young women, the young queens, the young princesses, the young men, the young kings, the young princes that sit and watch what you do. And you will be the person that is the influence. Why? Because we follow Christ. We follow what he did. We are following what the prophets did. Nothing is different. Nothing. That's why you are to get in your fringes. That is why you are to show our culture. And speaking of culture, there's something I want to put together next week in regards to our culture. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be wild. And every time I see it, it pisses me off. But we're not going to do it today. I want to focus on the Sabbath today. But we're going to do it for next week. Next Sabbath. And Israel, like I said, we don't have to go any further with this here. This is what we have to do. We got to keep the commandments. We have to glorify this day, the holy day that the Most High made for us, so that we can celebrate him and we can talk to the Most High on this day. The day that he set aside for us. This is an important day. And if you did not get it where the other nations already know this and they're trying to keep us in sin, then I really don't know what to tell you. I really don't. All I can say is raise your hands, face the east like the scriptures tell us, face Jerusalem and pray to the Most High and let him know I need help. All right? You don't have because you don't ask. Straight up. So with that being said, Israel, I'm so glad that we were able to spend this day together. And I thank y'all for being here with me today. And I enjoy every Sabbath. And once again, I thank Brother Kathia. Thank you, brother, so much. And honestly, Israel, I want y'all to thank him too. This was a wonderful lesson and this was a wonderful idea. So show this brother your love in the comment section and let's just love each other today and throughout, because guess what? We have a kingdom to get. All right. So with that being said, Israel, I love y'all. I'm out.